Welcome to That Goth Farmer podcast, where we present real and raw moments of our homesteading journey, as well as discussing hot topics within the industry. I'm Hailey, and this show is dedicated to inspiring others to take hold of their food security. So if you're a homesteader, this is for you. I have a couple of questions that have been asked, and we're going to be going over them today. First question is, where I currently am in my life, about my farm, my jobs, and my job history. Let's say 2021 is when I really got into working in agriculture. I first worked at a CSA vegetable farm, and there I washed all of the vegetables as well as packing them. I worked in the fields as well as a bunch of admin work, organizing all of the different CSA boxes where they had to get dropped off where. And then right after that, about couple months later, I got the opportunity to work as a calf feeder at a local dairy. And I had previous work of milking cows, but I had never raised the calves. So I took the leap and I decided to become a calf raiser for this farm. I have learned so much. My boss is absolutely incredible and always answers any outrageous question I may have. I'd have to say that the amount of animals we have right now, because there's so many that I can't count, we probably have about 150 to 200 calves that are quote-unquote bottle calves. We bottle raise them for a couple of days and then we break them to bucket, and that usually takes a good week to break them to bucket for us, with the sheer magnitude of animals that we have. So every day at my job, I get there around 7 a.m. to feed all of the calves. We have about 150 to 200 calves that need to be fed every morning with milk, and we feed all of them. Then I follow with grain, and then I'll start cleaning some buckets, disinfecting them. I'll clean calf blankets. I'll clean all of the pens. I also go over to what we call the chicken farm, which houses all of our weaned calves, as well as our older heifers that are waiting to get shipped off to what we call the feedlot. From the feedlot, they will get a little bit older, and then they will get bred with semen, and then by the time that they are ready to have their calves, they will be shipped back to the farm, and the cycle is repeated. And lastly, my farm. I've had our farm, I should say, about 2 years. I believe we got the rabbits first, right after we moved in here, and I believe it was a 2-hole hutch first, and then I followed it with a 3-hole hutch, and that's what we had for a while. We're up to about 30 rabbits now. We are waiting for a couple of Havana litters coming within they should be starting to nest next Monday as of this recording coming out. So hopefully we will have some babies coming soon, so that population will be rising. We also have 6 chickens. Our chickens range in different breeds. I'm not sure exactly what breeds they are, but I'm sure we'll be getting new breeds and we can talk about the different breeds that we like then. We currently really like our black copper Morans, or Morans, however that may be pronounced. I absolutely love how beautiful their eggs are. Eggs. So much to the point where they are in their 2nd year of laying, and we are swimming in eggs. Stay tuned to learn more about the different egg recipes that we will be doing. I will probably put out a couple of shorts and maybe compile it into a long form video so everyone can get a chance to use up all of their eggs with some new awesome recipes. Question 2. Why should I be careful on how I approach homesteading? Not fear-based. My personal introduction to homesteading was through a lack of having food. I grew up in a family where I would often share my food with my younger siblings and not personally eat myself, or I would just eat expired food. So the first time I had a garden at 12, I was able to have a lot of food coming in from that. I mostly ate salads that whole summer that I had that garden, and I believe my first set of egg layers was around 12 or 13, which was around the same time as that garden. So I would always have eggs in the morning to feed everybody, and then I would eat salad most of all day. As well as snacking on strawberries. I do love some strawberries. There's been a lot of conversation about that's not the right word. The best way to approach homesteading. For me, and how my childhood affected me in this way, I feel that I still look at it in a fear-based way, as food security is absolutely paramount. I never want to go the 2 or 3 days without eating again. I don't want to eat expired food again. That's not the way that I want to move. That is not how I want to move on with my life going forward. I believe that everybody deserves clean, fresh food, and they should never have to wonder where their next meal is coming from. Help me or others kind of shift our mindset to looking at it as an opportunity for abundance instead of the necessity to hoard food. Homesteading in a fear-based way, I believe, leads to extremism. I want to be a homesteader to feel the peace of knowing where my food comes from, knowing that it's clean and there's not these chemicals packed into it. How much you're consuming that you don't actually know what you're eating. What examples or events from childhood affected your view on homesteading? So my first introduction to gardening was from my great-grandparents. My great-grandparents, Wilbur, Lova, Virginia, Robert, and Lauren, all taught me the foundation of what I know in gardening just by being around them and observing the process of building a garden, planting the seeds, and maintaining the garden. And I remember being in each one of their gardens and just seeing the peace that it brought them. And it didn't matter how chaotic the world was around them, their garden was their peace, and their garden was just a place for meditation and a moment to pause and reflect on how incredibly grateful they were to have that opportunity. I also remember playing hide and seek with my great-grandpa Wilbur between what I believe were blueberry bushes. I was probably 5 or 6 years old at this time, so I'm not exactly clear what type of bushes they were, but I do remember eating blueberries, so I think that's why I'm assuming that they were blueberries. I would get off the bus and I would run directly into the blueberry yard, and Grandpa and I would play hide and seek as I was trying to collect blueberries to eat for an after-school snack. My other influences were also a couple of my other influences were from teachers at the school I had attended. I come from a very small town, very, very small town. My kindergarten teacher, I remember I wanted to start this business, and I did this business idea because I purely just wanted to see her horse. I have always been a horse girl, so that should come to no surprise for anyone who's seeing this, and if they've met me before or they've seen pictures of me with my horses from long ago. But I started this farm-sitting business because I just wanted to be a farmer. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just always been something in my heart and my soul that I have just longed for. something so beautiful, so peaceful, in that I could love my food, and my food can bring this love to other people. And then again in 4th grade, we had a Prairie Days, I believe. I can't remember what it was called then, but what we had done is we were making corn husk dolls and we were doing candle dipping, which I loved. It's one of my most favorite things that I have ever learned in school, which is kind of ridiculous, but I absolutely love candles. So the fact that I could make emergency candles just with melted wax in a string, that's crazy to me, or it was crazy to me. Now I know a lot more goes into the process. We also had done not assignment, but a segment on hatching these chicks out. And I remember it was that styrofoam white incubator, and it was the first time I'd seen something like that. It looked like just an alien spaceship to me, and to me, I probably will still always call it the spaceship. But this incubator was one of the ones where you had to manually turn it, and my teacher for this class, she painstakingly took care of it every day. And we were basically talking about the growth process from fertilized egg to chick. I have to say my absolute earliest memory of agriculture being impacted and just something clicked, like not just one light bulb, but it just felt like my whole existence just came to be, is when I was about 4 or 5 years old. We went to the local dairy days at the fairgrounds that we have here, and they were showing us demonstrations of how you can milk cows. And back then it was just your usual easy milk pumps. And now I work at a farm that has robotic milkers that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and takes down so many man hours. And at the dairy days, we had an opportunity to quote unquote milk a cow. And so I go up to this big towering plastic cow, and I sit on the tiny little rickety stool as the small infant self I was, and I reach for the synthetic udder, and just without thinking about it, I had perfect hand formation to get the milk out. Milk, quote unquote. It was really water, but that's besides the point. And I felt at home. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to leave. Just the smell of the cows that they had. Just, the farm has always been somewhere that I've belonged. Like, I belong out in the barn. I don't want to be in the house. I want to be in the barn with my animals. When was the moment you realized you wanted this life? Well, that kind of goes back to this last question. It was that and many different little moments of growing up. I had an opportunity to show chickens in 4-H, which unfortunately didn't go through. In following years, I was able to show horses. So I got really into showing my horses. Sergeant and Wildfire. Sergeant came first for a couple of years, and then Wildfire shortly after. Sergeant was a spitfire. He really didn't like anyone, nor did he really like me. But after some hard work, we were able to take home some pretty big titles, some pretty big awards, and he's just the best thing that has happened to me. Truly, I will miss him every single day that I am alive. He was truly something that kept me alive through some of the hardest times of my life. If we want to be completely honest, I have been taken back to a moment just now thinking about this. I was at a high school equestrian team's event, and I was riding a horse named Lefty. He was a beautiful bay quarter horse, and I was sorting cows for the first time. I had never sorted cows on the ground, so it was completely new to me. And to my surprise, we had a really good run, and I feel like it was in those moments where it just all clicked for me. You are to raise cattle, you are to ride your horses into the sunset, and you are to snuggle little babies all the time, of many different species, because we will probably be raising rabbits for a long time. I would really like to get into hatching eggs, as well as breeding some herding dogs once I get into learning how to train these dogs. Next question is about my love of cooking from scratch. What is the pride of a homegrown meal? I had made our first homemade homegrown meal this last year when we were using up the last of our tomatoes. I have never grown tomatoes before, so the yield wasn't very big, but we were able to get two spaghetti dinners out of this, and it was the most incredible tomato sauce I have ever tasted. And I'm not a big tomato fan, but this was incredible. So what I had done is I had oven roasted the tomatoes first, and then I put them into the blender with the skins. I had some onions and roasted garlic in there as well from when it was in the oven, and blended it all up, sauteed it over the stove for a while, and it was by far the most delicious meal I have ever tasted. That I had grown every ingredient except for the pasta. I don't think the pasta should count because I still don't know how to make it, but that is coming. It was one of the most delicious meals I have ever made, and all spaghetti after it is disappointing. And like what Jess would say from Roots and Refuge Farm, these tomatoes taste like disappointment. Why do you prefer animals over people? Well, it's because people cause drama, and animals, they just exist. They don't go out of their way to hurt other animals. Ooh, that kind of exposed me there. They don't go out of their way to hurt others. They purely act out of survival. And truly, I just believe they're kinder than humans. Plus, I don't like the drama humans bring. Last question, my long-term goals. So my long-term goals consist of having my own farm. Currently, we have a urban homestead. We have all of the rabbits. I would like to expand the rabbitry and really focus on my Havanas. I would also like to build a bigger chicken coop, as well as getting some more chickens. We're also expanding our garden this year to having 3 different gardens, but if you are interested in learning more about that garden, it is a pure container garden. We're hoping to move to a actual farm property within the next couple of years, so I'd like to be able to just pick up the garden and go whenever we're given the opportunity. And as a closing thought, why do you homestead? I homestead as I am dealing and healing from some childhood trauma what has left me with some pretty deep scars when it comes to food security and food insecurity. Not sure exactly how I should say that, but I know that I can get better with time, and I just hope that whoever this reaches, I hope you understand that everyone starts from somewhere, and that even if you're stuck in the middle of the city in your tiny apartment and all you can do is grow a single plant in your windowsill, or all you can do is make bread, you are a homesteader, and that is a homesteader hot take. I want you to know that no matter your situation, there are better days ahead, and that you are capable of creating abundance for you, your family, and your community. And if you're ready to take that next step, or even your first step into homesteading, I encourage you to stay a while. We believe everyone deserves access to clean and healthy food. And until next time, be weird and be you.